Garnet, I'll start with. Garnet is the Director of Professional Practice, the forest professionals of BC, is that right?
Yeah.
And used to work for a long time for a forest consulting company called Foresight, which in that work did a lot of wildfire work, but also managed the Logan Lake Community Forest. And Logan Lake's a really big example of fire smart in terms of the work that they've done. So I heard Garnet first speak at a conference a few years ago in Salmon Arm, and really good presenter and a good guy and come with your friend. So I'll just cue up your thing here, Garnet, and we'll get you going.
Okay, excellent. Well, that's great. I'll spend a little bit more time just doing a bit of an intro. Thank you, Arjun. And I live here in Cummins to Shokapnik, and it's an honor to be here and share some of the lessons I've learned. I am going to speak through the Tremont Creek wildfire lens. That was the fire that started off in Ashcroft and kind of worked its way over to Logan Lake over time. So you can go ahead to the next slide, please. Just a little bit about myself. In the top right corner, the table over there. Anybody 19 years old? Yeah. So that's how old I am in that photo there. So
a long time ago.
Yeah, that was 1987, 88. We were an initial attack firefighting crew based out of here in Kamloops. And the fella in the red jersey up there, some of you may know Bruce Morrow. Bruce Morrow became my sponsoring forester and taught me a lot about fire and working with fire. And I did initial attack, wrap attack. That's me, the dope on the rope, as they say. That was something I got to do, and it helped pave my way through university. And then I am going to just focus on the community of Logan Lake, and there's some of their community leaders as they did the shovel turn on their brand new fire hall that was going to be built, which part of the community was paid for by part of the community forest. And then that's just a bit of my career through time. Okay, go ahead. So Larson is fantastic, and it's a great Christmas gift for parents. This old fella miraculously survived a fire. Well, unfortunately, that's actually not what happens these days. With climate change, these old fellas are burning up just as much as the little ones. So, kind of a sad story to that one. All right, next. Okay, I've done this presentation, this talk, for a number of groups. I've spent all day on this talk. I've taken off all the subsequent bullets. I'm just going to talk about the role of the forest professional. Because I think when you put a team together to prepare yourself for an emergency situation, a forest professional is probably a key member of your team. Okay. So what does a forest professional do? Well, so I work as a regulator now. I spent 30 years of my career working as a dirt forester, and in the last 7 months I've rolled into the regulator role. So I'm learning what it means to be a regulator, but it's about governing the profession. There's about 5,000 forest professionals across the province, and they're in every community that you can think of. So that's Logan Lake. Post-wildfire, about 3 days. And a lot of the work that we did as a community forest was in and amongst this area. That's why it's actually green. Where we didn't do the work to prepare for the fire, it's in the background, all black and gone. Okay, you can go to the next one. So what is the practice of forestry? That's basically the definition that comes out of our bylaws. So providing advice or services for the relation of trees, forests, forest lands, forest resources, forest transportation systems, your roads, and forest ecosystems. So one of the practice areas that we specialize in as forest professionals is wildfire resiliency and risk reduction, and that's the practice of forestry. That slide in the background is a photo I took of Logan Lake immediately following the fire. That's the next day. I was on site in the incident command team during the fire, and that was part of the back burn that they did. Okay, next. So what you want to do, you want to get a qualified registered professional out there. There are standards that are established, and so when you're looking at, as Mike said earlier, everything's fuel for us as foresters. This is what fuel loading can look like, and then what do you do about it? There's more than just take it out. There's other resource values that we're thinking about. So wildlife is a good one, where you may have rare and endangered wildlife habitat. So we actually in Logan Lake had Williamson sapsucker, which is red listed, and so we came up with a strategy on how do we manage for that wildlife and still meet some fuel reduction.
Red listed means endangered?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Thanks. Sorry, I jump into jargon right away there. So you want to be thinking more holistically. And at points in time, you do need to be more focused on, it's a trade-off. We're gonna have to deal with reducing the risk. Okay, next. But the do nothing option is actually not a great option, because that's exactly what it looks like. We had prepared to do all the work in that upper slide, and we were ready actually to do the work in September, and of course we got hit by the fire on August 14th. So it's not really viable to just sit in your hands. Next. Fire smart. I had to throw that in. The person in the costume, you never know who it is. I have a great slide where the kids that were in the arena, they wanted me to do the slap shot with the police gun on how fast how hard your slap shot is. But wearing a costume, it's actually harder than you think to take a slap shot. It's hard. I couldn't hit the puck. So anyway, next.
What is that animal?
Oh, that's Ember the fox.
Oh, it's a fox.
That's a fox.
Yeah.
Either.
All right, so you need quality contractors. So it's not just about the reserve practice of forestry, but your team around it. So this is part of the regulated practice of forestry, and that's the folks putting the gloves on and doing the work. So a lot of our work will sometimes include just piling and burning. Sometimes we'll chip and remove. Sometimes we'll log and take it to post and rail. Cassidy, who's out in the middle, eh?
Right.
Yeah, nailed it. So I used to coach hockey, and Cassie was on our team with my son. So that's my son there in the middle. But just try to teach that next generation on how to do the work and learn. And of course, we use a lot of local First Nation crews in the area. Thanks, Arjun. Okay, so let's talk just a little bit about how does this stuff work. So this is Logan Lake. That's the acreages, they call it, the neighborhood in the bottom left corner. So this is an animated slide, so just click it. Okay, click it one more time. All right, so right there in the red polygons, those are areas we pre-treated in advance. You have to remember, Logan Lake started this work in 2003. I got involved in 2013, so there was people ahead of me that did a lot of great work. I was able to jump in and run with the program for a decade. And this was where we put some of our efforts as far as like reducing the fuel loading and preparing for a fire. Okay, next. That blue polygon, that was part of the community forest harvest. So back in the mid-2000s, mountain pine beetle came through. I think many of you might remember that. A lot of our pine trees got killed. So we made a decision as a community forest to actually harvest that blue polygon. We didn't know if we'd make money. Actually, we thought we would lose money. We ended up just breaking even. But it was I attribute it to strong leadership. The mayor and council and the board of directors made the decision that no, it's the right thing to do, so we're going to harvest that. So they removed all the dead pine, retained the Douglas fir where it existed, and that's the scattering of trees inside the block. And that was in anticipation of if there was ever a fire, there'd be less fuel. Okay, next. So that black line is the fire guard that they bulldozed in a day in advance. We talked about evacuation. Thanks, Jen, for those comments. In Logan Lake, we had the advantage of time. 48 hours in advance of the fire coming to the community, the call was made to order people out. The reason you do that is so that emergency services, first responders, can actually do their job. You're not trying to work with citizens, you're dealing with the issue at hand. And so when the citizens leave, now you're free and clear to focus on the job at hand. So we had 48 hours to get people out. It took about 3 hours to get about 2,600 people out. So really great response by the community. And again, leadership, like the fire chief, Dan Layton, for years had been on the community about why it's important. And when people got the notification, they left, which was super helpful for everybody. And then people came in with over 200 apparatus people. Yeah, I'll take questions.
What was the date? I just wanted to...
August 14th was when the fire hit, so August 12th was when people were ordered to leave.
This was...
2021. Just the year of the heat dome.
The whole
Okay,
year.
so
yeah.
after Lytton.
Yes, it was after Lytton. We had our scares in July. We had a lightning strike just up on the hill earlier in mid-July, and so we were on edge for sure. Like it was crispy in the forest for sure. But we saw the fire burning from Ashcroft, 35 kilometers over towards us, and then a cold front was coming in. So we knew the cold front was coming. We knew what would happen. We knew big winds would come in. With just our history of fire and behavior, we had to evacuate the community. So that's what we did. Jen,
May I ask what that line is? Is that just like Forest Service Road or is it
the black line or the straight line?
road? Yeah, what's that?
The straight line's Enbridge pipeline, gas, which is a whole nother story.
Okay. Sorry.
But we had to actually blow the valve on that because it builds up with pressure inside an active wildfire, which is quite interesting. So my role on incident command team was liaison officer, so I was stick handling a lot of that for the incident command team. So it was quite fascinating, actually. So anyway, we dozed in a line. It was really effective to do because it had all been cleared. We'd spaced it, we pruned it,
That's right.
and we came right through. Yeah, go ahead, go forward, and one more. Okay, fire's coming at us from the north. Hit it again. From the dozer line, that's when the BC Wildfire did a hand ignition with drip torches from there. So you fight fire with fire is the idea. And so then the two meet. One more click. And then we had a favorable wind come in just perfectly late afternoon on the 14th. And that also helped. So a lot of different contributing factors that made this work. Okay. So that's what it looked like immediately after fire. You can still see a bit of smoke. This is literally the next day I'm out there. I was just doing little mini dances because I was so excited that the work we actually did worked. And highly effectively. Like, it was amazing to be able to walk through that. And literally, there's ribbons where we hung, where one side we treated, one side we didn't. Immediately when you leave that, it goes into a crown fire and all is lost. And that goes for like kilometers, like 10 kilometers plus. Next. And that's Dan, fire chief. He came by about a week later, and we couldn't get the smiles off our faces, honestly. We were just so excited about the results. You can see the char on the base of that tree. It only goes to here, maybe up to here. Like, this is in 2021 with the worst drought conditions you can imagine, and we had that level of impact. It was just remarkable. And so just so excited to see such a great result. And we just want to keep doing it. But it's not by itself. You have to work as a community, and it needs to be a line item in the budget every year. You have to do a little bit each year. And that's Logan Lake's secret to success there. They started in 2003. They've never stopped. Even today, there's so much you can do each year. You just got to triage it and do a little bit each year. Okay? And again, there's our mayor and council that were in at the time. And on the bottom left was our community forest manager, Claire Newman, who sadly passed away. But she was such an instrumental leader in our board of directors and made those tough decisions that it's not about how much money we can make as a community forest. What's the right thing to do for the community? And that's a really important message. Sometimes it's about the values. And you really want to use a forest professional inside your team. You need a broad team, you need broad perspectives, but I'm just really emphasizing a forest professional will bring you a good lens on it, and everybody does their part. The fire smart equation, like Mike's presentation was fantastic, it only works when both sides of the equations are happening. So you do your bit around the home, and then the part outside your property boundary on the public lands part, that part needs to be treated as well, and then you'll have good success.
That water bomber, that tar bomber's an amazing photo, eh?
Yeah, I took this photo standing at Mag's Park, if anyone knows where that is in Logan Lake. They put that pumper truck down there. That apparatus stayed there the entire time, feeding the other pumps. Logan Lake has sprinklers on most of their homes. Now, the thing about that sprinkler bit is that it's done with intention and it's done properly. So Mike talked about water damage. Like, that will absolutely happen. If you don't put your sprinklers in correctly, you will damage your home. And that's not what you're looking for. So all the sprinkler kits in Logan Lake are done through the fire hall, the volunteers, whatever. They put up properly, and what they're there for is not for you to turn them on, it's for the firefighters to come by and turn them on. So they can just quickly run up, adapt a hose to it, and bang. So then you're picking which neighborhood you're going to actually hydrate. And the point is, you don't leave them running for days in advance. It's when the fire is upon you, you put it on, you create that relative humidity bubble above your home. And highly effective that way. So there's some technology behind it, some science behind it. And you will run out of water. We ran out of power there, like it was a gong show. But that's chaos, and that's where you just stand in the middle of it. Next. So a local resident, Vesta Giles, she's created a documentary out of it. It's going to premiere here at the Paramount Theater April 7th. And so I would encourage you, if you're interested, to go watch it. I've seen the B-roll of it. I haven't seen the final. And I was working on voiceovers with her just yesterday. So it's going to be excellent. I've seen it, and I think it's worthwhile going. And we're going to do a moderated session after it too. So I'd encourage anyone interested to come on out.
Cool.
One more slide.
Oh.
That's my daughter on the left. And in 2003, we evacuated our home in Rayleigh. And then that's my granddaughter. And I love how I haven't aged a bit. But it's amazing how fast it happens. And I'm still so excited to be still in the game. And there's my contact information if you wanted to follow up with any kind of questions and whatever. So.
Thank you very much, Garnet. Yay.